Hello again, my name is Zane Safrit, and I'm here with Pastor Daniel Balster of the First Church of the Nazarene, which is located on 5th Avenue and Briggs here in Fairfield, Iowa. Daniel, thanks for taking the time out from your
Yeah,
schedule.
thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, how long have you served as pastor at First Church?
I began my ministry as a lay minister actually in 2020, in September of 2020.
Okay.
And so I became an actual pastor just last summer. I got my first district license. So, on paper, I've been a pastor for a little less than a year, but actually I've been leading the church, the First Church of the Nazarene here in Fairfield for about 2.5 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, we met last summer when I learned you and your team of volunteers provide a monthly food bank on the first Tuesday of every month at your church.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people are you serving there now?
It fluctuates, but I'd say 100 is probably a pretty good number on average. So it can be less than that, or sometimes quite a bit more. It just depends. So it's a bit of a guessing game, but I'd say 100 is a nice round number that we typically serve. And so yeah, that's pretty good. I'd say 100
Okay.
on average. Yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to Rob Hunterdoss, who does all the ordering through the food bank for that, which is a big job, and he does it well.
Yep, Bob Hunter.
Did I say Rob?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah,
Bob Hunterdoss.
Bob Hunterdoss.
There we go. Daniel, how does someone new come to the food bank?
Basically what we do is right now it's a drive-through format. Before it was the more traditional mobile food bank layout, when we would have people come into our facilities and we'd have everything laid out in a circle, and people would get the food that they need. To keep basically one of each item. They'd have a bag or a box or something, and take one of each item, and then pretty much single file, and then go in one door, come out another. Now it's drive-through. So basically, they just need to fill out the paperwork, or excuse me, I actually have the paperwork there. It's very simple. It basically the qualifications are pretty generous. So we just want to make sure people can get the food they need. Someone came through recently that when I was asking them the questions, a lot of times we'll kind of use food stamp programs as a kind of a measuring stick, so forth, and they said, well, I'm not actually currently getting that, and that's what I'm here for. And I thought, that's a really good answer, and it makes a lot of sense, because there's some people that are right on that threshold. Where they don't qualify for that assistance, so the food bank is really a big help for them. But basically, anybody can come. We ask their name and their address, and there again, like I said, they ask them the question about kind of generally what their financial situation is. But again, it's very simple. And then we basically just load them up per certain amounts per family, and send them through the line, and it's just that simple, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I volunteer there, and it is a really simple, clean, efficient process, because I see you walk up to the car window, take a quick survey, and fill out that TFAP form that's needed. And within a minute or two, you're sending them to us for us to load up the groceries into their car.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's smooth. It's sometimes the traffic lines up quite a bit. It's backed up because people they come in line pretty early, but we open the doors at 4:00, but we get them moving through pretty quick. So it works out really well.
When I walk over there around 2:30, to start breaking down the food from the food bank into individual bags, a line is already forming. So by 4:00, the line's usually all the way to 4th Street.
Yeah. It's gets to be quite a sight, but it's in a way it kind of makes it more visible. Yeah. So there's people that say, hey, what's going on? Before, when it was inside, for the most part, people might miss out that we're even having it sometimes. So just that visibility, I think, isn't a bad thing in a lot of respects. So yeah.
When did First Church of the Nazarene offer its first food bank?
Basically, 2018, I think, is, I don't remember the exact month, but I think around the spring of 2018, our previous pastor is actually the one that that got it arranged so that our building could host it, our family center could host it. Previously, it was at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. This particular food bank that we now host was at the fairgrounds. He had got to talking to someone and told them about our facilities, and they were just thrilled that they could use our facilities. It's a lot better set up over at the Family Center, Nazarene Family Center. And as I said, originally it was a traditional one where people would come through in the building through the line. So our building is perfect for that, but right now currently with the drive-through format, we've got a really good location for that as well. So yeah.
They do. Now 2018 is kind of an interesting year. That was the year Fairfield was designated as the 7th best small town.
Oh, really? Wow.
In Fairfield, Iowa. At the time, there was your group later in the year with a once-a-month food bank.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the Lord's Cupboard.
Sure.
Were the only food banks in Fairfield. There were no soup kitchens. There was no come to supper Tuesday night dinners at First Lutheran Church.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Magnolia Sanctuary did not exist. Optima's free lunch program, weekday lunch, did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And First United Methodist Church did not start their food bank until 2020.
Oh, wow.
So, in from your perspective, what's been the driver for this increase in resources being needed within our community?
I think probably most likely the need was always there. It was just kind of underlining, maybe not quite as something that was not aware of. People were not as aware of it as they are now.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly with as you said, the Lord's Cupboard. They've been here for many years.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the need was there. But I definitely think the increased need is due to economical reasons. Of course, the COVID thing that is why we have the drive-through format. But again, the COVID situation certainly amplified things. Even though there was assistance available during that time,
Yeah, sure.
that assistance, of course, eventually ran out. And we saw increase in numbers and demand of our services when that took place. So. Yeah, I just think the needs unfortunately are growing, but just the fact that there's as many as there are now, like the ones that you listed, is just amazing for our community because it's very needed.
There's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So, and of course, there could always be more.
Sure.
But just the fact that the need as the need is increasing, or that we're become more aware of the need. That there's more of those food banks popping up and different things, soup kitchens like Magnolia, like you said there.
Yeah, now we have 12 little free food pantries.
Yeah,
there were none
yeah.
in 2020. So
yeah, that's such a great idea. Great, just basically like taking the library concept and putting food in. It's just a wonderful thing there. So.
Yeah, Erica and her crew does a great job.
Yeah, great.
So, do you have an idea of how many people you served with those first food banks back in 2018?
I'd say it was probably about, it was probably pretty consistently over 100. I would say it seemed like the traffic was a little bit heavier at that time. But there again, I think the fact that we were probably one of the few that was available, if not the only, besides the Lord's Cupboard, that was the reason. So I think, that's a great thing that those other needs are being met. But again. We still have, like I said, give or take 100. I'd say it's more often closer to 100, if not a little bit more than 100 now. But yeah, it seemed like consistently it was definitely 100 or more back then.
Now, inspiration has a lot to do with your work as a pastor, with your work serving the needs of those in the community, both spiritual and material.
Definitely.
What inspires you now to keep doing all that you're doing for the community and for your parish?
Well, I just feel like the need to, as Jesus said, to serve our fellow man. My inspiration to do this, particularly personally for me, is that I, as a minister, when I first became a Christian, I knew of the parable that Jesus speaks of in Matthew 25. It's called the parable of the talents. Um, and talents back then was a form of money that they used. And that's where we get our English word talent from, is from this parable, actually, because when Jesus speaks of the talents that he distributes to certain people, some more than others, but they were supposed to invest those talents and basically double, but create something from those talents, reproduce something. Um, but there was one servant that only received one talent, and out of fear, maybe possibly because he only had one, felt maybe was insecure with that, or felt inadequate, or had a fear of his master or something like that, he buries the talent, and unfortunately that was the wrong thing to do. And so he squandered that opportunity. And as a Christian, I felt that that spoke to me that I don't want to bury my talent. I want to do the most that I can with it. I don't particularly feel like the most talented person in the world, but what God has given me, what he has blessed me with, I want to use to bless others with. And serving God and serving others in the process, this is the best way that I can bless others with what God has given me. And that's what ministry is all about. That's what ministry should be all about. And to minister, it literally means to serve. And I want to serve God and my neighbors through my ministry.
Nice. Give us
Yeah,
some of
thank
that.
you.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't part of the script what we talked about, but as I'm listening to you talk, when I'm there volunteering with your group every first Tuesday of the month, and I see how calm and patient and kind and generous you are with your time and attention in talking to people who, let's face it, being in need, being hungry, and maybe haven't had to wait for an hour in the line.
Mm-hmm.
They roll down the window, and you've got to get some information so you can best serve their needs. And you do it 50, 60, 80, 100 times in a 3-hour period. Well, no, an hour and a half, 4 to 5:30.
Yeah, it goes quick.
But it's back to back, and I've never seen you once falter or even see a flicker of impatience or irritation, and I also see you being very calming and comforting to those reaching out to you in need and not in a good space in their life right
Sure.
now.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's really inspiring.
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's again, they're in a situation that I think we should be as compassionate and empathetic as possible. I mean, nobody wants to be in a line like that.
No,
In that way.
not for that reason.
Yeah, and I want to make them feel as welcome and as that I value them as a person, and I do, and I just enjoy. I just enjoy that interaction. I will say that I really, yeah, it's really a blessing to me. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. So besides feeding people, which is sort of the foundation of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of self-realization,
Mm-hmm.
the basic level is food and shelter and security.
Sure.
But there are other needs in our community, and I remember when we spoke way back last summer, you were telling me that people call you all the time.
Sure.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but Daniel also works a full-time job. So while he's working a full-time job, people are calling him saying, I've run out of gas and I need to get out of town. I don't have any food. I don't have any baby formula.
Mm-hmm.
I'm homeless. So besides food,
Sure.
what other needs are coming to you for you to try to find resources for?
Yeah, basically, and I did previously, up until recently, did work full-time job. Now I'm working part-time, so that's really helped so much to be able to still do the things that I want to be able to do and to serve. So that certainly takes that pressure off. But yeah, back to your question. There's definitely an increase, or these calls have throughout the year, they're pretty consistent. The need seems to go up around the late fall and into the winter for sure. And that's just kind of a common, it's just very common for that to happen. And of course, that's because of the cold weather coming in and things like that and that need. But usually we'll get asked about financial assistance with utility bills or other types of assistant needs, money-wise, like that. And although we wish we could meet every one of these needs and had the funds to be able to do that, we simply do not. So that, that sense, it certainly breaks our heart to not be able to do that. So usually when there's needs that are like financial, in regards to bills and so forth, we will refer them to the well for those types of needs, and we're so thankful for their services, and they are just doing a wonderful job. And we donate to them. So we certainly, I think our churches in the Fairfield community have kind of come together and really rallied behind the well, support them so that they can continue to do what they're doing. But we do certainly get phone calls about the food bank, our food bank, and so I'll have to tell them, hey, when that's going on, and let them know about that. We also get calls about just food assistance in general throughout the month, between food banks. We'll say, hey, do you guys have any food, or do you have anything like that? And if we have surplus food from our food banks, as you know, and you're helping us, sometimes there's, because we can't guess exactly how many families we'll get, we will have some extra sometimes, and that's a great opportunity to be able to connect with people. So I'll usually get their address or so forth, ask them, hey, if you need it right now, I'll bring it to you right now. If I'm over there answering I don't unfortunately get to the answer machine at our church every single day, but when I do, and if I am able to reach them, I will, drive out there and give it to them at that moment, because there again, having the part-time jobs certainly helps me be able to do that and frees me up. So yeah, I just if it's possible and I can meet that need for them at that moment, I try to. So yeah.
You've, with that resource, people being able to call you and reach out to you and, speak very plainly about their needs, their immediate needs. You've got a sort of a finger on the pulse of the community for what services are needed.
Sure.
What's lacking in our community. And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, and you're welcome. I know you appreciate me doing that. But I'm interested to hear your thought on what's the one big resource in our community that's lacking.
So yeah, that's a tough one, and I think there can always be more services that the government can provide. I mean, that is always a need, and we can always get more of those services. We could always use more of those services, I should say. But I think the best thing, is to get at the heart of the issue, because it just goes far beyond another service. I think we as a society have just become very withdrawn, and I think that's kind of at the root of a lot of our issues. And in the past, we used to connect, with our neighbors and help each other out. And seriously, when's the last time you've seen a new house built with a front porch? It's not as common as it used to be.
No. No.
And I think that just represents the direction that we've gone as a culture, as a nation, as a people. And we used to be very visible to one another. So I just think we need to reconnect with one another. And I'm not talking, so I'm not trying to knock social media, but I'm just saying reconnect in that organic way with face to face and seeing someone as a person. And I think then in that way that we can truly be a community again and serve our neighbors. So I just think that gets to the heart of the issue. Like I said, we can throw money at it, and that's a great thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, it's the best to get at the heart of the issue. Yeah.
Well, speaking from personal experience, I know that, the past 7-8 months of volunteering, with your group and First United Methodist and Golden Sanctuary, that connecting with people and just being out and giving and discovering, a whole nother side of our community, and, connecting in this very deeply personal way, has really brought out, a lot of good things.
Sure.
And when people, I guess I inspire to become a volunteer at one of these groups, do the same thing, they report the same experience.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, it's very fulfilling. I mean, it's just nothing better. We can buy stuff. We can take something to alleviate that lack that we all sense, but relationships, that's always the most fulfilling experience that we can have is relationship, human relationship. No one will deny that. So we need each other, and I just think we need to regain that perspective.
Nice.
And I think we need to see each person the way God sees them. And when we begin to have that same type of love and compassion for them as God has for us, in that way, that's when things change. I think we need to see people as God sees them, and not just a number, not a burden, but have compassion and love for them. Yeah. Yeah.
So, let's say you wake up one morning with the power to change things and eliminate this food insecurity in our community. And I'm going to digress, as I'm prone to do. Food insecurity, has a great definition at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's something that's very warm and fuzzy and comfortable for people who've never experienced it to discuss it. Food insecurity for me means there's no food in the refrigerator. There's no food in the refrigerator yesterday, and the household occupants are unsure if there's going to be food in the refrigerator tomorrow, and unsure how to change that. That is food insecure.
Yeah.
So what would be the one thing you would change to eliminate food insecurity?
Kind of a little bit back to my previous answer. We just need to reprioritize, I think. I mean, again, it would be wonderful. We are, I don't know if we're the wealthiest nation. I think we are the wealthiest nation in the world. Yet again, like you said, we have that food insecurity. That's a real problem. One of the biggest, I think, people that are in that food insecurity bracket would be children sometimes, which is really heartbreaking, especially around the time when school's out. And I think that is just one example of our priorities being misplaced. And I'm not trying to single out any group of people or anything like that, but I just think, if your child in the United States of America is hungry in any way, shape, or form, if you are not as hungry as your child, there's a problem there. That you should be doing everything in your power. We should be doing everything in our power to make sure those children are not hungry. And of course, it starts at the family level. We know that what the family situation is with a lot of kids, which is heartbreaking. Fairfield Schools has a great program, I know, that has school lunches and bag lunches and stuff like that during summer. That's just wonderful, and we are thankful for that. But it's just, I think the biggest thing is that if I could just jump into somebody's head and transform their priorities and say our priorities needs to be our fellow human beings and not everything else. We all do it. We get wrapped up into ourselves and not thinking about something, our neighbor. And loving God and loving neighbor is a big deal in the Bible, and I can get to that in a bit. But it just starts with that. It's just, again, priorities, transforming our priorities. The stuff that's temporary in life just doesn't matter. It's the people that we can impact, and if we have the ability to do that, it's a broad spectrum. It's all across the board. It's not, hey, this group of people needs to do better. This individual needs to do better. It's just everybody. We can all do our part. There again, community, and be a community again. I just think about how during the Great Depression, everybody seemed to band together, and sometimes I wonder if such a thing happened again, would we be able to do that in the same way? I'm just not sure, and it's scary, but we need to rediscover that sense of community and love for one another. Yeah.
Nice. Just to drive that beautiful point home with a couple of statistics, 10% of the population in Jefferson County experiences food insecurity. So 10% of the people in our community tonight will not be sure if they have enough food to eat. If that's not bad enough, then 13% of school-aged children experience food insecurity. So that means more children than the average population. That is not a bright future. That is not a good trend line. Daniel, you mentioned the carry-on bag program. at the school, where they provide, volunteers and donors provide a bag of food for children to carry home on the weekend in order to have food. Excuse me. Last year there were 150 children in the program. This year there are 180 children.
Wow.
That's a 20% increase in participants. It's wonderful that those resources are available. It's distracting to think that those resources are needed.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, with your group and others, you know, we're addressing it.
Yeah. It's like a kind of a bittersweet thing, you know, that we're helping more people, but the fact that people need help, that's a
More,
yeah. So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, so to speak. But yeah, the more that need increases, we just need to step up, and that's the school's doing a great thing.
Now, leaders are readers. Jim Rome says that. You're a leader. What are you reading these days?
Well, of course, the Bible. That's a big deal for me. I read that, and that is what inspires me. That is what I go to for advice, of course, and what drives me. But I've also been getting into what's known as like the apocryphal books, like that didn't quite make it into our Bible, but are important to read nonetheless. I've kind of gotten into that. I used to be would stray away from that because it's not in our Bible. But I think it's important to read those, and the reason I think so is because it helps broaden my understanding of Scripture. Because during the time of Christ, a lot of that stuff was what people were reading at that time. It was the literature of the day. You know, that was basically like what people were into at those times. Were certain books like that are still available to us today, but they didn't make it into our Bible. And these are the books that people that Jesus was speaking to were reading. So I guess when I read the Bible, I want to relate to the people that he was speaking to, his original audience, best I can, and that's just one way of doing that for me. So that's why I'm kind of getting into those right now. Nice. Also, my latest course that I'm taking for my course of study as I work toward ordination as a pastor is psychology. It's called Introduction to Psychology, and it's psychology from a Christian perspective. So just from my first week, I'm learning how fascinating of a study that psychology is, and it's really helped me better understand people, and I want to be able to do that so I can better serve them. And Jesus, he was compassionate and empathetic to everyone that he ministered to, and I think studying psychology can help me better minister just like Jesus did, and be able to understand, you know, how people think, what people are going through, and just be able to be more relatable to them in that way. So, yeah.
Nice. So now before we end our conversation, I want to give a shout out for the volunteers that make your food bank happen. There's you, there's your wife Katie, Bob Hunter-Doss, Mary Lyons, and Jerry Main.
Yep.
It's a great crew to work with. We have a lot of fun. It's very rewarding organizing it, the food, carrying it out, the interactions with the people we're delivering the food to into their cars. And as I tell everybody, you know, it's a great workout for, you know, squats, deadlifts, core, arms.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's about 3 hours nonstop.
Yeah.
And while I go home really tired, it's really satisfying.
Sure, yeah.
It's really satisfying. So
yeah, absolutely. We appreciate your help so much, and it's fun. It's just it's a joy. I mean, sometimes when it's coming up, it's like, oh, there's got another food bank coming up. Man, that month went by quick. But then when you get in the middle of it,
right.
It's just it's a fulfilling experience to be able to help people. So.
And we've been blessed with really good weather.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Woo.
every time it seems like. When something's not looking too good. Last time, possibility of storms. Thankfully, it ended up being a really nice day.
Yeah,
the
it did.
Got pushed
it
back,
did.
So, yeah.
All right, now I got to give a shout out for you. Besides serving your parish as pastor, you work a part-time job. That alone is an inspiring role model for me, and I think for a lot of people. And you know, you also do this food bank offer this food bank. You're available pretty much 24/7 to anybody who needs it. As you mentioned earlier, you're willing to, drive out and deliver what you can to those in need.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure meeting you, volunteering with you and your crew, and learning from you how to serve others.
Sure, absolutely.
So thanks for all that. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming here today.
yeah, it's my pleasure. Can I say one more thing, I guess?
No.
Okay. Yeah, well, you say about
No.
serving others, and I appreciate your compliments. I can't take any credit for that. I serve God, and I want to serve God the best way I can, and that's through serving other people. Because we, as Christians, as followers of Christ, corporately we make up the church, and the church is God's representative here on earth. Representatives are we as the church, and we're supposed to convey that good news that Jesus, the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ to humanity, by showing them how much God loves them through Jesus. And Jesus said in Matthew 22:37 through 39, when he was asked by someone, what is the greatest commandment? You're probably familiar with what the 10 Commandments are. You've heard of them. Someone asked, of course, they even had more laws back then than just that, of course. But he said, well, what's the greatest one? And Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. He said, this is the first and greatest commandment. And he said, the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said that everything, basically he said to this person, everything in the Bible hangs on these 2 commandments. We love God first, which enables us to love our fellow brothers and sisters of the human race. And all of humanity is our neighbor. That's what Jesus was talking about when he said neighbor. So when we love God, of course, we love God inwardly. It's in the heart. We love him inwardly. It's spiritual, of course. Yet that love has to be manifested. That love must be manifested outwardly as evidence of how much we love God, and loving our neighbor is the greatest outward manifestation of our love for God. And in that way, we show humanity how much God loves them by our actions as his representatives, and hosting the food bank's just one way that we can love our neighbor. So that's what inspires us as a church, what inspires me to do it. So
Nice. Thanks, man.
Yep, thank you.
I appreciate it.